The things that boredom can make somebody do. Hello, friends. Welcome to Dead by Discussion, where we discuss all things Dead by Daylight. So, I was bored at work, okay? That's the first thing you gotta know. I was bored at work. And so all this is nothing but boredom brainstorming. I was sitting there, and I was thinking about the fact how Dead by Daylight has no fucking competitive scene and competitive rule set for it. So I was thinking, if we were to make a rule set for Dead by Daylight on a tournament scale, what does that look like? And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna brainstorm since I don't think anybody else has ever done it. Well, I'm sure, I mean, people have had tournaments online, so I'm sure like some rule sets have had to be formed in some in some ways or another. So what I decided to do was I thought about Call of the Abyss 2 from Identity 5 a while back. So I decided to kind of use that as a model to make my own tournament rule set that I think could be, if there ever was going to be a tournament standard, this could be the tournament standard. Now, let me preface this by saying I am not red rank yet. I am on purple as killer, and I've been to purple as survivor. The only reason I haven't been playing survivor very much as of late, which is probably why I'm like a bit rusty at it, but I have been to purple at both sides, so I know what both sides go through in some of the game's higher levels. I know purple's not red, but I've played enough red ranks now to know that I can consider myself not that experienced against them, but like I'm starting to see more red rank players, so I have played them. But again, I know this isn't perfect. This is just a fucking thing I made up in my head. So I was trying to be as fair as I possibly could to both sides and not really cater to one side or the other. But that being said, I think we all know that killer, there is a deficit that they face. So some of these rules are intended to balance that out. And anybody who does not know that killers have a deficit, just do not play this game at higher levels. And that's all I have to say about that. So this is what I thought to be a balanced rule set, but I'd like to hear some feedback on it. So that's why I'm sharing it. That's the main reason I'm sharing it. Just, you know, be constructive, don't be toxic. Typical things you have to tell the Dead by Daylight community before you do something like this. Just be constructive. Okay, so using the Identity 5 as a model, what do we know about that? Well, the very basics are that it's a set, but like most fighting games, this is going to be a set that takes place over the course of 3 rounds, with you accumulating points throughout the set, and the team with the most points at the end is going to win the set. Alright, so there's 3 rounds at the most. Sometimes round 3 doesn't have to get played if it's like a huge landslide. But the way it works is like this. Every one that escapes is 1 point for the survivor team, and every one that is killed is 1 point for the team that's playing killer that round. There is 2 matches per round, one team's killer versus the team of survivors, and then vice versa. So you can say, like, if one team gets 2 escapes and the other team gets 3, it's 3-2, and then you flip and do the other match. So that team, and then the other team gets a 4K on survivors 4-man, and then the other killer gets 2. So that'd be like, I lost my train of thought. I believe that I said that would be, what I just said would be 6, no, and then 4Ks or 5 points. So if you are able to get a 4K or a 4-man escape, those are worth 5 points. And that's the thing that can push it sometimes. So the way it works is, if it is at all possible for the team that's behind to win the set still, round 3 gets played. At least the match that could determine that, if you will. One of the matches will get played. And then you play the other one for funsies. That's kind of what Call of the Abyss did. So that's the way we're going to do it here. So that's just the very, very basic things of the set. So that's how the sets are constructed. I think nobody really has an issue with that. I think that makes a lot of sense, and that should always be implemented. I think that's pretty damn good. The things that we have to address that are different from Identity 5. The way Identity 5 does it, and the way I support, is they do bans. So I think this game should have bans as well for in between all of the matches, in between all the rounds. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So we have to address, but Identity 5 bans characters. So the first thing we're going to talk about with bans are, this is the things that are always banned no matter what. Keys for survivors. The reason that I ban keys is it doesn't matter if you have a common key. All you have to do is have one coordinated play, and that's a 4-man escape. And that's kind of the alternate win condition that we support for tournament play. Like, lol, you got a key, and you escape the killer with a key. Ha, aren't you guys fucking fantastic? No, you're not fantastic. And even if the killer's chasing the guy that escapes with the key, the hatch gets open. If the killer shuts the hatch, it starts the endgame collapse. Which is going to mean they'll just split up and go to different exit gates, and then one person's at least getting out. So the fact that you used a key could cause a 2-man escape or a 3-man escape that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And that's a shitload of crap. So keys are banned no matter what. Ebony Moris are also always banned, because that's just being fair. That's an alternative win condition for killers. You just have to hook somebody 1 time out of 3 and then kill them. Like, we can't award points for that. So Ebony Moris are always banned. Ivory Moris we will talk about later. We will address Ivory Moris later. But Ebony Moris are always banned, as are any type of key. Keys are always banned for the reasons that I just discussed. Okay, so we're gonna, in order to determine what maps you're playing on, the one thing that I could not stand about Call of the Abyss 2 is that the maps were just kind of picked, and you'd see fucking the amusement park map like every single time, and then Priestess would just go, "Wow, lol, teleport," and it'd be broken and not fair. Whereas Priestess is worse on some other maps, but you'd see the fucking amusement park map every single time. And so like the way that by Daylight has it, we have the offering system to determine. We can't really pick stages. Sometimes if there's only one stage in the specific offering set, you can pick it. But like, if you burn a McMillan Estate bone, there's no way to tell what McMillan Estate map you're gonna get. So, at first, I was gonna go through specific maps for those being legal, but then I realized that would take all day with the way that stages are picked. So, I figured all they can do is burn the offering, and that's how you pick a stage. But not every offering is legal right away. We have starters and counterpicks. Okay. Starting stages, so stages that are usable round 1. Are the Colwyn Farm, every map in the Colwyn Farm, the McMillan Estate, and Autohaven Wreckers. And the way you determine who picks a stage is you do rock, paper, scissors. That's a normal thing. That's a Smash tournament thing. And then Smash does all kinds of crazy bans and shit. We don't really have enough offerings for that. So the way it works is whoever wins the rock, paper, scissors will pick the stage. I think it's very fast, simple. You don't have to sit there and talk for 15 minutes about what stage you're going to do. You just say, I won rock, paper, scissors, I'm going to play McMillan, and we're going to McMillan. And that's that. You burn out. Who has to burn what is different, because I know some offerings do stuff, so I'm kind of just thinking of making all offerings illegal, just to make sure that no one, like, the killer has to burn the McMillan offering, then all the survivors can burn an offering that does, I don't know. Fuck offerings, dude. They're kind of in the way right now. So, that's what I decided to do about that. We'll go over counterpicks in a second. But banned stages, there are some stages that are always banned. The swamp maps. I ban the swamp maps. Again, this is just my rule set. If you think the swamps deserve to be a counterpick, more power to you. I think the swamp maps are very poorly designed. They're way too big. A killer can literally, like, find somebody with 2 gens done. And then they have to chase them at a map with multiple safe zones and strong looping locations. Fuck the SWAT maps. They're a bunch of shit. They're too big. And I just don't think those maps are fair, and I don't think they represent good Dead by Daylight, so I just ban them. Another offering section that I've decided to ban is the Crotus Pen Asylum offerings. I do like Father Campbell's Chapel. I think that is a fine stage. But the reason you have to ban it is because of Crotus Pen Asylum. Crotus Pen Asylum is a map that desperately needs reworked. It is a map that loop in the center is just way too strong. And the fact that it's in the center of the map, meaning every chase is possibly can see that. It's a location that can be looped multiple times, like unrelentlessly. It has 4 of the safest pallets in the fucking game right at that one spot. Some of the safest windows in the entire game. Some of the safest balanced landing spots. It's just a problematic map because of that huge looping location, and if we're reworking maps, that's one of the first ones that I suggest we look at. Gideon Meat Plant, I know it's on everybody's mind. We will talk about it. So I think that's everything to say about stages. Next, another rule to limit survivors, because survivors need to be limited. Survivors are not allowed communication in any way. I still think that is wrong. I still think the act of survive with friends and the act of added coordination in this game is absolutely broken and should not be there. I think it is busted. Unless you play with your entire perk set revealed to the killer. So the killer knows who has borrowed time, who has dead hard, who's probably doing what for the team. If you give the killer more information about your builds, then maybe survive with friends can work. Because of that's coming from Identity 5 and the fact that they do have a survive with friends. They have a survive with friends standard. They do. But the reason I think it works is something I've already discussed before on this channel. There's a reason that Identity 5 makes theirs work. Because of the way the game is and the way that the survivors are their own characters and the killer is granted more information based on the character select screen. That is why Survive with Friends works in that game, in my opinion. Because the killer isn't horribly screwed because it exists. He can predict the outcome of the next play of the game as effectively as the survivors can. Dead by Daylight, you don't have that luxury. However, you would have that luxury if the perk set of the characters was revealed. So, that's your options. You either have to play with your perk list revealed, or Survive with Friends is banned. That's the thing that I think is the most fair for the game. And I don't see how anybody could disagree with that. If you do, I'm open to hearing about it. But I genuinely think Survive with Friends is broken. Especially if the player has Object of Obsession, a perk that I think is horribly busted, and as much as I love it, the nerf that it's gonna get for stealth killers is probably needed. But like, if the guy has Object of Obsession, they can know where the killer is at all times via communication, and that is a bunch of bullshit. And so that's why I just want to straight up ban Survive with Friends. But I did come up with an alternative. And then I think if you do Survive with Friends, Object of Obsession is a banned perk. Because I say that as somebody who loves it dearly and runs it. Yeah, I think if you do Survive with Friends, Object of Obsession is a perk that has so many problems, and it's a different game when somebody has Object and is relaying information to their friend. Alright, more limitations. Survivors are only allowed to play one copy of every character. That is an Identity 5 rule as well, so it's not like I'm just saying it for this game. But 4th P3 Claudettes on a squad is silly. And it makes things a whole lot harder for the killer. What you do for Claudette is the meta strategy for Claudette could be to give her to the worst kiter and then she can be more stealthy. That's probably the ideal scenario for her. But like the fact that you give that Claudette can be stealthy and in the hands of a really good kiter is a bit ridiculous. You don't need 4 Claudettes on a team. That's an Identity 5 rule. I think that is completely fair. And next, this is something I added in terms for items. Only 1 survivor can run a copy of each item. There's only 1 toolbox, 1 med kit, 1 flashlight, and then unless you search a chest and then find them in the game. So, like, searching chests wastes time. You're more than welcome to do it, and anything you find in the chest is legal through the match. But on the starting select screen, only 1 copy of each item. I think that helps balance things out. It helps slow generator times, even if a little bit. And it'll help stop 4 insta-heals being the meta of the game. I think that's cancer. As somebody that plays both, I think multiple insta-heals, multiple brand new parts in match is cancer. Alright, so with all that out of the way, I think we're finally ready to go through each round in the specifics. So, we talked about rock, paper, scissors, and the starters Colwyn, Farm, McMillan Estate, and Autohaven Wreckers. Other limitations for round 1 are no broken add-ons are allowed to be used round 1. No brand new part. No insta-heal. No purple... I guess purple flashlight. Oh, I'm talking about the bulb. Nothing to make a purple flashlight bulb more ridiculous. Like, no broken add-ons. Or, I might say broken items is something I'm open to, because the killer can't even bring items. And so the killer's broken add-ons are also banned. Like, you can't have a fucking Omega Blink Nurse round 1. You can't have Insta-Saw Billy round 1. You can't have Gen Snagging Spirit round 1 unless you have, like, a weaker variant of all of those things. So, that's all, like, banned round 1. Okay, so that's the only really specific thing you have to say about round 1. So round 1 happens, those 2 sides are subject to the same limitations, and then, after that, we have Counterpicks. And then all the stuff that goes on in between round 1 and round 2. First thing would be the Counterpick. The Counterpick is the first thing that happens. The losing team picks a Counterpick stage. And these stages are... Oh, where are my lists? Where did my list go? I don't see my list. I think I screwed up. I forgot my list. Let's see if I remember the rest of them. Badham Preschool, Haddonfield, Gideon Meat Plant, Red Forest. Just like I can't remember. I thought that was still there. I can't believe it's not there. I can't believe that's all not there. I'm very stupid. So basically every other map that's not Crotus Pen Asylum or the swamp maps are legal counterpicks. I think what I said was most of them, but in case I'm forgetting one. And then in addition to the starters, which are also legal counterpicks, unless the side one of them already. Actually, no, I don't know. That's more specifics for a different day. Just like every stage that's not the swamp or the swamp or the fucking Crotus Pen Asylum universe. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's talk about Gideon Meat Plant real fast, because I know people don't like Gideon Meat Plant, and that was one of the first stages I wanted to ban for being poorly designed. But I feel like that is a powerful map for some killers. It is a powerful map for Hag. It's her best map. It's a good map for Nurse, because the survivors have another limitation, being the verticality of the map that the Nurse doesn't have. And mostly just those two. I mean, it's one of Trapper's worst maps. Like, but it's just like that alone. I don't really know how other characters do their So, but the fact that those two killers have a good matchup on it, and they would hate to lose that tool. So I don't think it's bannable, just because the balance of the game is, despite how bad that map is, the balance of the game is objectively still healthy. And that's why you can keep it in as a counter pick. Because I'm sure Hackmains would love to play a Gideon Meat Plant. If the survivors are playing against a Trapper player, I'm sure they would love to play a Gideon Meat Plant as a counter pick. Because it would basically force the Trapper player off Trapper. Because Gideon Meat Plant sucks for Trapper. The balance of the game is still healthy at Gideon Meat Plant, and that's why it's still a legal stage. So, and then the losing team gets to pick, which I've already stated. And the bans. Here's where the bans come in. Survivors get 1 ban, and the killers get 2. You can ban anything you want. You can ban characters. You can ban perks. And then you could ban add-ons. Survivors, that's kind of a stupid thing to do, because you could go, oh, I banned Billy's Instasaw. I banned like a Billy Instasaw. But the guy can just fucking play Spirit, and then you wasted your ban. So, it's not really recommended to ban add-ons for a Survivor. But Survivor can just go, oh, I'm going to take a viable killer out of the game for you. That big Nurse, probably, is who's going to get banned a lot round 1. It's just really top level. The Survivors just can go, oh, you're super viable killer, Nurse, we're going to take her out of the game. And force you on a different character. So that's the power of 1 ban. Survivors only need 1 ban. Killers have more stuff to worry about. I was originally going to get Killers 3 bans. But I decided I just settle on 2. Alright, so here are the bans. Killers can ban specific items, such as a purple flashlight, or a mechanic's toolbox, commodious toolbox, brand new part, insta-heal. They can ban whatever they want. They get 2 bans. The only limit that they have is that they cannot ban more than 1 exhaustion perk. Because the next round they're gonna get 4 bans, and so you could literally ban every viable exhaustion perk with that. I think Dead Hard, Life, Balanced Landing, and Sprint Burst. You could literally, I think there might be one more that's good. But like you could literally just ban every viable exhaustion perk, or with the exception of 1 at the most, with that number. So I'm like, okay, letting a killer do that would be a bit not fair. So we're gonna have something called the exhaustion ban. If you ban an exhaustion perk, you can't ban another one. But the same thing is also going to survivors. If you ban a hex perk, that's the only hex perk you can ban. With some exceptions, because there are some perks that I do not consider ban worthy. There are 6 unbannable perks in round 2. That would be No One Escapes Death, Hex Ruin, Barbecue and Chili, Self-Care, Adrenaline, and Borrowed Time. Those are the 6 perks that are completely off the table. Because the reason that you don't ban those, there's a lot for each one. We'll go through it. No One Escapes Death. You cannot ban No One Escapes Death because it takes totems out of the game. If you ban No One Escapes Death, the survivors will save so much time because they know they don't have to do bones, as Sambonation puts it. Keeping the survivors on totems is a way to keep them guessing and keep slowing the game down. So you cannot ban No One Escapes Death because that is the perk that helps that go off and helps slow them down in that way. Killer might not be running it every game, but just the fact that it has to keep them guessing, so they have to keep doing the totems. That's why you can't ban Noed. You can't ban Hex Ruin. Killers need Hex Ruin to play. It's that simple. So the fact that if you just ban that, it further can speed up the process of gen rushing. You can't ban Hex Ruin because killers need it. It's that simple. That is something that, especially round 3, if you force somebody on, like let's say they don't play Spirit because Spirit's hard. If you force somebody on a B tier killer like Huntress or Myers, and they don't have Ruin, that's going to be the easiest 4-man ever. So I don't support that. Ruin needs to stay in the game because it's healthy. Barbecue and chili, that's just a very strong perk. I kinda gave that to killers because there's a survivor. I found you could take barbecue out and then take adrenaline out too, but you know, I gave killers barbecue so survivors could keep all 3 of these perks because you guys gotta keep it balanced in that aspect. Barbecue and chili, very good perk, very killer, very coordinated throughout the match. And choosing to run barbecue is never a bad play, so I let killers keep that. Self-care, survivors save a lot of time with self-care. And again, if you don't let survivors have self-care, the way that they play the game is incredibly different. And if you're gonna let killers keep no-ed, if you're gonna let killers keep ruin, you have to let survivors keep the self-care. Because self-care is a perk that is a staple for survivor play right now. So you let survivors keep that. Adrenaline, the endgame equivalent of no-ed. Like, you can't just, and that's another reason you can't ban no-ed. You can't, like, unless you ban them together, because you can't let killers not have no-ed and then survivors get adrenaline. Like, that's a bunch of bullshit. So, adrenaline is just there to be no-ed's counterpart. If survivors want a different perk for unbannable, other than that, because that doesn't do as well of an endgame effect as no-ed, objectively. That's fine. But adrenaline's good because sometimes it's the only perk that can save you. And then borrowed time, again, I feel like survivors need borrowed time to play. I cannot imagine a game of Dead by Daylight without the borrowed time in it, where nobody on the team has borrowed time. I cannot imagine a world like that. So survivors need borrowed time to play, and you absolutely cannot ban that, or the game looks really stupid. Most of these perks are not bannable because it makes the game look stupid if they're banned. Like these random totems here that you can't break. Killers are very underpowered, especially without Hex Ruin. And then survivors can get punished for for relying on old habits like self-care and stuff, which that's not really fair to them either. So those are the 6 unbannable perks for round 2. So survivors will get 1 and killers will get 2. And like I said, the hex ban is still in effect because survivors will get 2 bans round 3. They can't ban more than 1 hex perk. I think that goes well with the killer's exhaustion. But you know, that was just a concept more than anything else. If that one's not that supported, I understand. Round 3. Round 3 is where shit hits the fan. Survivors get 2 bans. Killers get 3 bans. Oh, I thought it was 4. I forgot. 3, 4 bans. The number pending number doesn't really matter. Killers get 3 bans. So we'll just say that because that's what I have written down. The big oof is that because if this is, for all intents and purposes, and this is being streamed, and ideally at high ranks you're going to see survivors escaping a lot more. Let me just tell you that right now. I've watched Identity 5, it's the same thing. You're going to see more survivor wins than killer wins in these tournaments. But if you're at round 3 and just about even, if you do not see why an Ivory Mori would bring hype to its set, you are stupid. And that is why I am allowing Ivory Moris on killers for round 3. I think Ivory Moris on round 3, only round 3, they don't get them round 1 or 2. Killers having access to Ivory Moris round 3 when they're probably playing a weaker character. Let's not kid each other, because I'm telling you right now, optimal survivor bans are going to be just banning Nurse and banning Spirit. That's good. That's what's going to be optimal, and basically forcing the guy on Hillbilly, a matchup that you've been playing for almost what feels like 6 years. You're forcing the killer on Hillbilly is what, or somebody else, or some out there pick is what you're going to have to do. So, like the thing with Identity 5 is there's nothing to buff the killer that they pick that's really bad. Well, yeah, there is. You can make an Ivory Mori legal for killers to run in round 3. And I think that would bring hype to a set and make the game more fair, honestly. It would help. It would help the killer, especially if the killer's struggling against a team of top-level coordinated survivors. Just tossing Ivory Mori on there, it would add tons of hype to a set. Killers and survivors are also allowed access to 2 purple add-ons in round 3. I forgot to mention that in round 2 they are allowed access to 1. If I did, I don't remember if I did or not. They get 1 purple add-on round 2. Survivors get 1 per team, and so 1 in the team, and killers just get 1. And round 3 they're each allowed 2 purple add-ons. Anything that hasn't been banned. So like here's the thing. Killers can waste their ban on brand new part, insta-heal, and the purple flashlight thing. They can waste their ban on that. But then they're not banning any of the core items themselves, so they can still be used with maybe not like as broken of add-ons, but like they can still be used. Because, like, here's the thing about banning insta-heal. Insta-heal, you can ban insta-heal, but then there's that one item that does basically the same thing as insta-heal, except it's just 1 health state, not 2. So if the killer bans insta-heal, the survivors just use that instead of insta-heal. So it's not like the survivors don't have options. Don't give me that shit. But survivors get 2 purple add-ons round 3. Everybody gets 2. And then there's also 8 unbannable perks round 3. The same 6 from before: No-Ed, Ruin, Barbecue Chili, Self-Care, Adrenaline, Borrowed Time. But we've added 2 more. Killers, I threw down Nurse's Calling. Nurse's Calling can't be banned. And for survivors, I gave them Spine Chill round 3, no matter what. Just to, like, help them see people coming. Because there's a Mori in the game, and you guys get Spine Chill for round 3. And that's my rule set. Again, 4-mans would be worth 5, and then everything else would be a subsequent 1 if there's no 4-man. That was my way to make the most fair and balanced rule set I could in the 20 minutes I was working on it for it to work. But, you know, I'm not saying I captured lightning in a bottle here, but I do want to talk about this. I do want, because like I said before, it's my dream to have Dead by Daylight tournaments become consistent. And I think the first thing we need is a consistent rule set. So if we brainstorm ideas, we can get a consistent rule set out there. So I hope it's something that gets implemented into the future. This is just my brainstorming. But I hope that we can talk about this and hopefully get it implemented a bit more. I think it would be nice. GG, plebs.